Welcome to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, created and hosted by Scott Knudsen, to explore the crossroads of horses and business. Now here's your host, Scott Knudsen.
Hi, and welcome to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Scott Knudsen. Whether you're watching our podcast on one of our many platforms or listening to us on the radio out in California on KCAA, our NBC affiliate, we appreciate you supporting our show. Today we have a very fun show, a unique show. Jacquie Dalton is on the show. Jacquie is a founder and CEO of SPARROW Executive Jet Charter. She was also a thoroughbred jockey, an owner, and a breeder. So we're going to have a fun show today. And like she said the other day, fast jets, fast horses. I love it. Jacquie, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Scott. I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, man. Well, I bet the show's going to go really fast. You know, there's so much to talk about.
Absolutely. Everything I do is fast.
I love it. So let's just start. So before you became a jockey, did you grow up wanting to ride horses? Did you just ride Western and say, I'm going to be a jockey, or what happened?
No, but I think it's funny because people always default and say, I remember Jacquie growing up. She always said she wanted to be a jockey, which was not true at all. I mean, just like any little girl, I loved horses. I love animals in general. But, I started riding Western show horses when I was about 10 years old. My dad is a cowboy, or was a cowboy. He passed away about a decade ago. But,
Wow.
he was a cowboy, loved horses, and introduced me to it. And, it was fun, but definitely different than the thoroughbred racing world that I wound up in.
Wow, that's so cool. I didn't know. So your dad was a cowboy and you grew up the Western way. What triggered you to go from the Western saddle, the cowboy way of life, to flat tack, which is the flatter saddle that jockeys use?
It's so funny you're saying that. My father used to make so much fun of the English saddles. We'd go to the show and he would always say, it just looks like a pimple on a horse's back when he'd see those English saddles. Yeah, absolutely. So, it was a couple years in between from when I rode Western to when I wound up on the backside of a racetrack. And really, as I told you earlier before the show, I was short. I was looking for an opportunity. I was a high school dropout and there was a racetrack nearby. And I thought short was enough to get me in the saddle. And I'd been on a horse before, didn't really know the difference between a quarter horse and a thoroughbred per se. So I just showed up in white cowboy boots at the back of a racetrack and said, I want to be a jock, and started from there.
Oh my goodness. That's just really, that's so cool that you did that. It takes a lot of fortitude, So what was it like? So first, how many women are jockeys in horse racing? What's the percentage, do you think?
You know what? I have to get that statistic. I think maybe the Jockey Guild would probably be able to fill us in on what percentage of the jockey colony are female. It's not much bigger than it was back then, maybe a little bit, but it's still very male dominated.
That's so cool that, you had the fortitude just to say, hey, I'm going to do it. And you did it. So what was that like? So when you showed up at the back of the track and the racetrack, did you just go up to someone and say, I want to be a jockey?
Yeah, I didn't know any better. I didn't realize everybody on the backside of a racetrack wants to be a jockey for the most part.
Yeah.
But I, just like anything, I hit the barns one by one and introduced myself and, showed up thinking that being short, like I said, was enough to give me an opportunity. But it was one trainer, his name was John Forbes, and his assistant, Patrick McBurney. And when I said I wanted to be a jockey, John Forbes looked at me and he said, oh, no, not again. And so when he said that, I was like, oh, he's done it before. This guy can make me a jockey. So I went and sat on his bench for about 2 hours. The end of the morning, they were wrapping up, and I just started rolling bandages and participating and having conversation. And, the horses were all put away and fed, and Pat McBurney walked out, and I was still sitting there, which, to be honest, I had some blisters on my feet. The cowboy boots were one size too big. They weren't mine. And he said, all right, come back tomorrow. So I showed up the next morning, 5:30, bright and early, and rolled bandages and wiped down foot boxes and, just hung around the barn. But it took a while before they actually put me on the back of a horse.
Oh, my goodness. So what did your cowboy dad think, or your family think, when you're at the barn and you're looking at racehorses?
I think I was 16 or 17 years old. So I wasn't really communicating much with my parents about anything I was doing at that point, right? Once you show up on the backside of the racetrack, you're pretty independent.
Yeah, you're there.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and even if I was saying anything about it, I don't know if they were really paying that much attention as to whether or not I was going to make it happen. But I
Oh my,
did.
that's so awesome. So
Yeah.
awesome. So what was it like when he came to you and said, did you start in a race or did you start with a practice or did you start in a warm up in the morning with a horse or how did you start your
I
first run?
started mucking out stalls, right? So I got to take care of 60 head of beautiful horses, right? And you think about the owners and how much those horses are worth and getting the opportunity to be around them. So the only horse I was really allowed to be on was the pony. So I got to rub the pony, practice bandages on the pony, muck out the pony stall, ride the pony, which was a big deal. And then from there, every once in a while, once I had a couple of months under my belt, they would take me out on a couple fillies, little fillies, nervous fillies that I was about 92, 95 pounds. So I was nice and light. So the height started to come in handy once they saw I had the nerve and I could definitely handle a horse. I did some pole bending and barrel racing. So definitely had nerves of steel. And I'd go out with the pony alongside of me and I'd be in the saddle on a racehorse in what's actually called an exercise saddle, not quite an English saddle. And we just go out and go around the oval, and that was my first experience on the actual track. And then the first time I got to go out on the track by myself was on a pony, and you'll
Oh,
love this. They let
yeah.
me loose. They let me loose, and a whole bunch of people came up to watch this big, soon-to-be jockey, aspiring jockey. You going out, backing up 1 mile, jogging on a pony. But the pony, in my defense, used to be a racehorse, so we knew how to run. But I was backing up, I'm learning how to post, I'm doing the whole thing and looking really good. I get behind the tote board and I was tired, so I thought I'd take a little rest and maybe not look as proper. And the pony, his name was Woody. He just started going a little bit faster, a little bit faster. And I was like, whoa, Woody, whoa, Woody. Started taking in the reins a little bit. And as you know, once you put a horse on the bit, especially a racehorse, they'll pick it up and go. So they saw me jogging and posting behind the tote board and then like a shot the wrong way, just came out flying. I swear to this day, no matter how many races I rode, I still have never gone as fast as I did on that pony that day. So yeah, it was hilarious. The outrider had to pick me up, caught me, which was good, and
You got
then
the
got
full
back.
experience.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Man, oh my
yeah.
goodness. Well, some of the jockeys are such athletes. Going around that big track in that position on your legs and being so balanced, that's tough. That is so tough. So how did you stay in shape? Did you do something special, or did you just get on that horse and just naturally have that instinct?
Lainey, you always see the afternoon races, but it's really the morning work that gets you primed up and fit and ready, just like the horses. I mean, you go out in the morning, you show up, you get on 10, 12 horses in the morning, and by the time you're riding races, you can't possibly be racing fit. It's just a completely different type of fit, but you're
Hmm.
fit enough, and you start getting out there, and once you start riding races, you're just so adrenaline peaked, and the horses are just so prime conditioned and ready to run themselves. And like you said, athletes are really pound for pound, just extraordinary athletes. So I'm not quite in that shape nowadays, but back then it was, your body just acclimates to what you're doing. And, you keep pace with the horse that you're riding, just like any discipline when you ride.
I love that. I love that. So what was it like your first race? Do you remember maybe the track you were on or the horse's name when you went in the dressing room, you saw your silks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really exciting. I rode a mare, 5 years old. She had enough racing experience that she could, quote unquote, keep me out of trouble. So I was just told, come out of the gate, hold on, don't fall off. If you get in trouble, get to the outside. Her name was Miss Forleon. She was 21-1. It was at my hometown racetrack, which is in Oceanport, New Jersey. And just putting on your silks the first day is your first time experiencing that, or being in a racing saddle, which my saddle, Angel Cordero Jr., it had been a saddle that he had retired in, a Hall of Fame jockey who was a mentor of
Wow.
mine. So that was real exciting.
Big name,
And
yeah.
all my family and friends were there from high school and teachers and the whole thing. But I was expecting to lose, but went out. And once I sat on her back, I could feel it. I didn't recognize it at the time, but you get that sense from a horse. I think she knew she had a special mission that day. And we broke on top, came out of the gate first, rode on the rail, turning for home. And I'm thinking, where is everybody? Why isn't anybody passing me? And we just kept going and we won. It was really exciting.
First race.
First race ever. Yeah.
That's strong. That's so strong. That's like a drop your mic kind of deal, you know?
Oh yeah. I should have just stopped right there. 100% win percentage out the door. Yeah. Been there, done that.
Oh my goodness. How cool is that? How many people would love to start that way? So what was it like getting your picture made with your family and friends, your first horse, your first win? It had to be just on the top for sure, because you created your way.
It was really surreal. I mean, you know, racing was an opportunity for me to make a new path, an opportunity for myself. You know, like the beginning of the conversation, it wasn't like I had some childhood dream of being a jockey. It was really a hard knock path for me. It was, what am I going to do with my life? You know, how am I going to make opportunity for myself? And I chose that path. And so it was a huge success in terms of proving myself out and getting to that point and then winning. Just looking around and seeing the looks on my mom's faces, my brothers, my trainers, the owners that gave me the opportunity, right? Shout out to them. Absolutely. It's a big deal for somebody to put you in the saddle and give you an opportunity to ride. So it was a real privilege. And I think my most memorable part of that day was seeing the look on everybody else's face. And of course the mare, I mean, I had ridden her in the morning and she really brought me home safe and sound. So that was a big deal too. She'll always be special to me.
Absolutely. That's such a cool story. Such a cool story. So how many rides did you do in a race?
So I rode just about maybe 210, 215, somewhere in there, just over 200 races.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So after you got through riding, is that when you started your breeding program and getting involved in other aspects of horse racing?
Yeah, when I left racing, I went back to school because I'd been a high school dropout. And racing really, aside from learning to ride, which I loved, and being a jockey, I also learned a lot about work ethic and opportunity. And I had always had, you know, fairly smart noggin. So I just thought, let me really go back. You never get over dropping out of high school. And I went to get my GED at a community college, Brookdale Community College. And then from there, I transferred to Northwestern University and graduated top of my class. So that was another nice feather in my cap. And then I went into high-tech public relations. I got married. I had somewhat of a suburban life for a while, got into some charitable organizations and things like that. And then I went back. I went back into racing. It was actually the Breeders' Cup returning to my hometown racetrack and then having an opportunity to serve on the host committee that lured me back to racing. And from there, I got into ownership and then breeding and got to experience the industry from that perspective.
I love that. I love how you just create your way and then you do it at a high level. That's so cool. So somebody may be listening or watching today, maybe they don't have horse racing in their blood, or maybe not jets, which we're going to talk to here in a little bit. What is something you can tell them? How do you wake up one day and say, I'm going to go to this university and be top of the class? I'm going to go be a jockey. What's something you can, some words of wisdom?
Well, what do they say when it comes to horses? You just got to get up there and do it. So
absolutely,
you can think it, you can do it.
Absolutely.
So, and, you know, I think another thing is not being afraid to fail. You know, you really have to be willing to fall off. You really have to be willing to take 10 shots and maybe just get it right once. But if you just give it the go, at least give it the go, you'll get there.
I love that. I love that. Now, I love how you just create your ways. And when we come right back, we're going to talk about what was your favorite, owning horses or breeding horses or being a jockey, and how that led to the next life experience, the Jets. So we'll be right back with the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show.
Scott will be right back with more.
Hi, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, heard on KCAA Fridays, 3 p.m. Pacific. I'd like to talk to you about something I'm very passionate about. Those that know me know I love my coffee. In the morning, afternoon, and even late in the evening, I enjoy a good cup of coffee almost any time of the day. Now, my team at the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show has been working for several months on creating and introducing our own brand of coffee. We wanted to make sure that we got it just right. We don't want to put our name on anything unless we're 100% certain that it's the best product available, and we've finally done it. We have created a wonderful line of coffees, 13 fantastic flavors offered in whole bean, ground, and K-Cups. Any way you like to brew your coffee. Now, each of our coffees carries our brand, the very same brand that we put on our horses, our trailers, and our chaps. So you know that this is a quality product. And we only use 100% Arabica beans, the very best beans available. Just listen to some of these wonderful blends and flavors. Jamaican Me Crazy, Honduran San Marcos, Chocolate Cherry Amaretto, Breakfast Blend, and my very favorite, Haley's Blend. A coffee so good, we named it after my daughter. You can order these coffees today by going online to javacowboy.com. That's javacowboy.com. And if you order today, you can get an extra 10% off your final purchase just by entering the promo code COWBOY on checkout. Remember, that's promo code COWBOY for an extra 10% off. Just go to javacowboy.com to order your coffee today.
Hello, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I want to tell you about a product I've tried and I love, and I feel the Cowboy Entrepreneur audience will as well. It's Rebellious Infusions. Rebellious Infusions, there are little packets of flavor. And you know, it gets hot in South Texas, over 100 degrees every day. And I like my water, but it's water. So I use these infusions, put them in my water. It makes it cold. It's great flavor, 0 sugar, 0 calories. It's pure energy infusions. Rebellious Infusions. Go to drinkrebellious.com or on all social media platforms. Drink Rebellious. Hello and welcome back to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. Our guest is Jacquie Dalton, founder and CEO of SPARROW Executive Jet Charter and former thoroughbred race jockey. So Jacquie, we were just talking about, being a jockey or being a breeder, being an owner. What was your favorite aspect of the thoroughbred industry?
Definitely the breeding side. When you're bringing new life into the world and you get to see these horses actually get out onto the racetrack and race and run, and that was definitely my favorite part.
That's awesome. So is there a story, or is there a certain, a horse that you raised or that you were a part of that you experienced that transition?
Yes, absolutely. My first filly in the racing world was a Jersey bred named Jumpin' Jacqueline, which was fateful because we didn't name her. Wow. Isn't that funny? And she was a real runner. She had a great heart. She won some nice races for us right here in Jersey, and I'm a Jersey girl. This is my hometown turf, so that was really exciting. And she had a bit of a mishap and wound up having an ankle, and I retired her rather than drop her down low and run her for a claiming tag and lose her. I thought, I'm just going to breed her. And I had no background in breeding. Nothing about her bloodline necessarily made her qualified to be a horse that somebody would look at and breed, but I just felt like she had earned her way, and so I wound up breeding her, and she just crossed her $1 million progeny and earnings mark.
Congratulations!
A year or two ago. So she produced some runners, nothing flashy, no big name horses, but definitely runners with big hearts just like her. So she holds a very special place in my heart.
Isn't that great? I love the names in horse racing. So with your horses, how did you come up with names? Or what's a funny story? Because they're so unique to the owner or to the ranch.
As well, I think the best name we came up with, I have twin sons, and at the time I think they were 7 years old, and it was my third or fourth foal. And my son Michael, he's a real spitfire, and the name of the sire we bred her to was Bustin' Stones, a New York stallion. And my son, Michael, we would just teaching him how to play blackjack, but I know that sounds horrible, but it was totally innocent. And he would just always bust the bank out. He just, how some people just have that kind of luck? Yeah. He just had that kind of luck, and he was always busting the bank out. So we named that colt after him. We named him Bustin' the Bank. So that's one of my favorite naming history. But you're right. That's naming horses is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a cool, the backstory to horse names are so fun. I love that. I love
I
that.
had another Bustin' Stones horse, actually. I got to tell you this one too.
Yeah,
She was my
please.
first stakes win in Philly. She was also by Bustin' Stones, and we named her Filibustin.
I love it. Isn't it fun when you hear the announcer or the crowd calling your horse's name and you know where that came from?
There is nothing like it.
Yeah, that's
Nothing like winning a race. Yeah.
so awesome. So being a jockey or owning horses, did you travel a lot within the industry, or did you stay in the Jersey area?
Yeah, it's a gypsy lifestyle. Back then, there were more racetracks here in Jersey. You had, I think, 4 at the time. Now there's only one, but it's still seasonal. You run for about 3 months and then you pack up and you move. So I primarily went up and down the coast, from New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Philadelphia, but mostly New Jersey, and then down in Florida, which was wonderful. Spending the winters in Florida was
Great,
fantastic.
man.
Yeah,
That's awesome right there. That is awesome. So is that kind of where you started coming up with the idea to have your jet charter, Sparrow? Like, I'm going to make travel easier. Is that where it came from?
No, there's really not a link in that way, but I will say racing and the lifestyle of racing, the community of racing, the competitive nature of racing, the travel aspect, not necessarily in the air, more on the ground, but that's definitely at the heart of Sparrow and what I do. It's the industries are comparable to some extent, but I didn't lead from one into the other because they were connected. I had some time in between.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so we talked about horse names. So how did you come up with Sparrow?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah, every once in a while.
I'm little. I'm 4'10". And I don't know. I get the job done. I don't think you have to be a hawk or an eagle. Everybody's coming out with these big dominating names. And, I just thought at the end of the day, and again, this is like the equestrian community. I think, the Sparrow is very hardworking, very diligent, gets the job done well. But the Sparrow as a community gets the job done even better when they work together. And the jet charter industry is like that. It's not something that you can do as much as you do on your own. You really depend on collaborating with many other players in the industry. So Sparrow is not just about the individual Sparrow, but about the community of Sparrows that make up the entire industry so that you can work together to do it well. So that's the genesis.
I love that, man. There's a lot of thought there. That's really great. That is really great. So explain, if you don't mind, explain what a jet charter is. For somebody watching, maybe they don't know. Maybe they'll be interested. So what is a jet charter?
A jet charter is just if you are going to travel privately and you want to charter a jet, or rent a jet is probably another way to say it. You contact someone like me that can go out, understands the industry, identify the right aircraft for the mission that you're flying. Many factors actually go into that, and then we just facilitate your private jet travel. We handle identifying the aircraft, securing the aircraft, running the passenger manifest, making sure that the flight itself goes off according to plan. If there's any issues, being able to run up behind it, make sure that there's a recovery in place, just really overseeing your entire flight operation.
Wow, that's so great. I mean, you just take all the stress. So they just call you, you set it up, they get to enjoy their travel.
Oh, absolutely. If you're not enjoying it, you shouldn't be doing it.
Absolutely. So what advice do you have for, I mean, it sounds so foreign to some people, jet travel or whatnot. What advice do you have to, once again, we're going back to the entrepreneur side. How did you jump into jet travel or helping someone like that? How did you find that niche?
So I started in marketing and sales. I had a skill set that I could apply pretty much to any industry. So I feel really fortunate that I wound up in the jet charter industry. And I started about 12 years ago. It's quite a different, nothing about the basics of the industry and how it operates have changed, but the way it gets pushed out to the consumer has a much broader consumer base right now. The messaging has really changed. Technology has really driven a lot of attention to it. Mm-hmm. But it's not for everybody. It's not as accessible as people think that it is. And, I'll go out to dinner for pizza with my friends on a Friday night and somebody will say, hey, can we charter a jet to go to California? No, we cannot. So one of the things that we really focus on is making sure that we message correctly and resonate with the proper clientele that we're servicing, and don't dilute what the product is. It's, one of the things in a lot of industries, they talk about Uber for private jets, Uber for whatever it might be. And it's really, to some extent, it's a little condescending. I mean, these pilots are very highly skilled, very well educated, very hardworking. It's a highly regulated industry, and it requires a lot of attention, especially with what we have going on right now with supply chain issues and parts and services. It requires a very focused attention to detail. So that's what we make sure that we do for our clients.
I love that. So what are your clients? Are they families, or are they more the business people, or is it people just trying to go to a horse race?
I love the ones going to a horse race.
I do too. Special place.
Yeah, I always say that a charter company, you can tell a lot about a charter company based on the type of clientele that they service. And I'm really proud to say that our clients are just really impressive, hardworking, self-made people that create jobs and opportunity. And, we've seen everything from, traveling across the country or internationally and doing business flights, business trips, and development projects, to that time that they do get to fly with their family, which is real high quality time that I always say it's very sacred time in the cabin that you get to spend. It's, to have that time with your children when you work so hard, or you're really not as accessible as you might want to be, and you get to do a trip, and that time that you're in the air is time that you really get to connect. So that's very meaningful, very family oriented. We have a lot of, I find that we resonate most with very family focused clients.
Wow, I just heard your voice, and I was in my mind, I'm thinking, man, that would be so great to take the family, and I can see where that would be a special time for sure. Well, it's part of the trip, It's part of the vacation, or part of wherever you're doing. It becomes a memory for sure. For sure.
Oh, absolutely. The minute you get to the jet, you pull right up, you get right on. It's very special, and you get to see, the jet. And no matter how much you fly private, it's very impressive when you pull up, you see the aircraft, and you get to appreciate the different equipment and see what you're flying. You meet the pilots, and, to see, a father or mother take a seat and a child just jump in their lap and, have that special time. It's adorable.
That's really cool. They're really cool. So when you booked your first jet charter, what was that? I mean, what was better, your first ride on the track, or was that? Because both of them are such extremes.
Oh, no, now you can't get me comparing horses to jets.
Okay, thank goodness.
I love them both. I love them both. But I would prefer to be on a horse any day of the week.
Absolutely.
So.
Okay, that was a good one. I was hoping for that answer. Oh my gosh. So when did you start SPARROW?
I started SPARROW right before COVID hit, right as COVID hit.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I saw it as an opportunity to really take my experience, and the downturn in flying was predicted at that point. Now we're seeing the upswing in it, but at that point in time, people had really grounded to a halt, and we expected they wouldn't fly much, which I thought was a good time to develop a brand, a message, a platform, get some basics in place. And so that's when I started SPARROW, and but my client base actually kept flying. So it was riding two horses with one tush. I was executing flights pretty quickly, and at the same time building the basics of the business as a startup. And we're just over 2 years into it, and it's been real competitive, but we are holding our own for sure. And I think our message and dedication is really resonating and cutting through some of the clutter that's out there. So we're real proud of ourselves.
So Jackie, I love that saying, 2 seats, 1 saddle. I think it's so clever. And being an entrepreneur, that's what it's like. Sometimes there's 4 and 5 seats in 1 saddle. So how do you manage that? And when do you know to bring somebody in to help you?
That's a real challenge. I think any business owner can probably relate to, especially when you're doing something like this and you need to trust people's lives with other people participating in the trip. So letting go of some of that control is difficult, but you have to be able to lead people and make sure that you can teach well, lead well. And one thing I've learned for sure is that knowing your trade well is not the same as being a good entrepreneur and a good business owner. So those are my lessons. And as I'm learning, just making sure that I can teach what I know and instill that in people that I bring on, as long as they're working hard and dedicated and invested. Work ethic is key. Can't teach work ethic, but you can teach skills.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that work ethic came from cleaning stalls, every morning for years,
No doubt. I always say the number one skill I know is how to muck out a stall. You're always mucking out a stall in business, for sure.
Always, always. Well, guys, thanks so much for listening to Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Thank you for listening to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. Scott will be right back with more. For more information on Scott Knudsen, the Cowboy Entrepreneur, visit us online at cowboyentrepreneur.com.
Hi, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, heard on KCAA Fridays, 3 p.m. Pacific. I'd like to talk to you about something I'm very passionate about. Those that know me know I love my coffee. In the morning, afternoon, and even late in the evening, I enjoy a good cup of coffee almost any time of the day. Now, my team at the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show has been working for several months on creating and introducing our own brand of coffee. We wanted to make sure that we got it just right. We don't want to put our name on anything unless we're 100% certain that it's the best product available, and we've finally done it. We have created a wonderful line of coffees, 13 fantastic flavors offered in whole bean, ground, and K-Cups, any way you like to brew your coffee. Now, each of our coffees carries our brand, the very same brand that we put on our horses, our trailers, and our chaps. So you know that this is a quality product. And we only use 100% Arabica beans, the very best beans available. Just listen to some of these wonderful blends and flavors. Jamaican Me Crazy, Honduran San Marcos, Chocolate Cherry Amaretto, Breakfast Blend, and my very favorite, Haley's Blend. A coffee so good, we named it after my daughter. You can order these coffees today by going online to javacowboy.com. That's javacowboy.com. And if you order today, you can get an extra 10% off your final purchase just by entering the promo code COWBOY on checkout. Remember, that's promo code COWBOY for an extra 10% off. Just go to javacowboy.com to order your coffee today.
Hello, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I want to tell you about a product I've tried and I love, and I feel the Cowboy Entrepreneur audience will as well. It's Rebellious Infusions. Rebellious Infusions, they're little packets of flavor. And it gets hot in South Texas, over 100 degrees every day. And I like my water, but it's water. So I use these infusions, put them in my water. It makes it cold. It's great flavor, 0 sugar, 0 calories. It's pure energy infusions. Rebellious Infusions. Go to drinkrebellious.com or on all social media platforms. Drink Rebellious. Welcome back to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show with Jacquie Dalton, talking everything from fast jets to fast horses. So Jacquie, would you talk a little bit more about SPARROW as far as whether it's invitation and referral and how that works, that process?
Sure. That's something we get asked all the time. Why are we invitation only or referral only? And I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of interest in private jet charter. Who wouldn't want to fly private?
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of sales opportunities, a lot of clickbait that's out there, a lot of lead generation that's taking place on the web, and we just don't deal with a lot of that because it distracts from the flight operations, which for us, the sales are important, obviously, but it's really the flight that matters most. So we just focus on servicing our client base, and they know better than anybody how we do what we do and what it's like to fly with us. So we just keep it close to home and focus on having a community of flyers that know us well. And we just really trust them and they trust us. And so we grow it out that way.
I love that concept, the word of mouth. I mean, that's your best testimony.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree completely. And when you think about the type of, I would say my biggest privilege is what I do for a living is the people that I work for. When you think about who they are and what they do, it's such a privilege. So really earning their trust and respect means a lot to us. So, and we do it one trip at a time. Our clients fly annually and have pretty active travel itineraries, but we look at every single individual flight as an opportunity to earn their trust. So when they send us referrals, we feel that we've earned it, and they know that we'll take as good a care of their contacts and relationships as we've taken care of them. So that's a real testament. We take that.
Yeah,
really
I love that. I love that. Well, it's a relationship business, just like almost everything is, and that's just taking it to the next degree, where they trust you to get them to wherever they're going.
It is, right? I mean, you know that even with what you're doing, developing relationships and taking a chance to know people. I think to a great extent, technology has taken that out of the equation, and it's at the heart of everything. I mean, when you wake up every single day, boots on the ground, and you spend your time doing something, and other people are, you want it to be meaningful. You want it to have impact, and you can't do anything well if your heart's not in it. So, absolutely, that's our approach.
I love it. I could just hear it when you were talking about the family experience on your planes and your charters. And right there, just hearing you talk, I could tell that was a relationship part. I could hear your passion. And I think that's where the referrals come from. They have the great experience and they bring people in. And it does stop a lot of the unnecessary calls, and you get to build your clientele. I think it's so great. Such a testament.
I think we've gotten pretty good, actually. You could start to read the site just like a horse, right? You walk up to a horse, you can get a sense and read the energy and know what the experience is going to be like. And I think as a startup owner in particular, you want every opportunity, but you really don't. You want the right opportunities. So we're pretty good at getting a sense. Not everybody's the right fit for us. And we're not the right fit for everybody. So, there are other opportunities and programs out there, and, people will contact us. We get some cold calls, and, we'll be pretty honest and let people know we're really not the right solution for you. Maybe refer them elsewhere. And if they are, we can sense it and we know it, and we'll just hit the ground running. So.
I love that. And that's so hard for people in business, entrepreneurs or whatever. So it's hard to say no, especially you've been in business for 2 years. It's hard to know, but it's so worth it to say no sometimes.
Yes. We say no a lot.
Yeah.
We've gotten very good at it.
Yeah. Well,
I think it comes with age.
Customers. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think it comes with age, right?
Yeah, absolutely. True that.
But it's not just us. I mean, when we take something to market and we start to fulfill a flight request, we're taking other people's time too. And so we're real diligent about if we take something to market and we start taking other people's time and other people's attention, we're real about it. You can bet, you can take it to the bank. It's legitimate. And when you think about running a flight operation and what's really involved in that, it should be. So it's not something you want to test the waters with.
No, not at all. Not at all. But I love that. It's so hard, and it's so important to know your worth. And I see so many people in business that are worth so much, but they'll take so much less just to get the sale. And sometimes it cheapens the brand.
Yeah, I see the opposite too. I agree with you. And I see the opposite too. I mean, sometimes, especially now in our industry, there's been this low cost, cheap flying. There's no such thing. It's not an inexpensive proposition. It's a very high hard cost industry. And, sometimes you get people that can absolutely afford it the way you're supposed to do it, but they'll spend a lot of time trying to haggle on the price. And, it's just, you're going to save this amount of money and spend that on dinner later tonight. Is it really worth that time? And so, but you have to develop a sense of mutual respect, so we really make sure that our clients understand that, on the sales side, we're being honest and we're being fair and reasonable. But most importantly, we're really focusing on the flight. So
I love that. I love that. So let's go back to the jockey life and real quick. So would you mind just telling us, for someone that's maybe never ridden a horse, especially in a horse race, what's that life like? Because we're going to go back. We already talked about it, but I think it's so fascinating. Just the travel. Do you have any travel stories of being a jockey?
Oh, sure. Taking me back.
Yeah, we're going back again.
And taking me back. I was just a couple weeks ago, I was actually out in Kentucky before the Derby. I went out to Hillendale Farm, and they bought this farm, beautiful, just extraordinary property, Exalpa, and have really invested in revitalizing it. And it's magical. It's just a fantasy land. They have this property there called the Treehouse. And everything about it is extraordinary and magical, and their stallion barn and, the mares and the foals. And it brought me back to when I was younger and, I had my little car and throwing my saddle in the back and hitting the racetracks and showing up to ride. And I miss it. I miss it a lot. And there's nothing quite like it. I will always miss racing. I don't think I'll ever love anything as much as I loved riding races. It's hard to really put it into words. And but jet charter is as close as you can get, I think. But nothing quite like being on the back of a thoroughbred and in a pack of horses racing to the wire. And it's
a thrill. I love that. I love that so much. So travel's something, and being a jockey. So how did you once you transitioned to, like, with jets now? What was that experience like, going from the car with the saddle in the back? Now you're doing, it's still the passion business, and I think there's a parallel there that as an entrepreneur, once you find your passion, like you said earlier in the show, you can go for it. And I think that's so interesting.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I think now as I look at it, I still think of myself as, that young girl on the backside of a racetrack. I'm still
Absolutely.
mucking out stalls. I'm still boots on the ground. But, I used to ride for people I used to ride horses for owners, and now I fulfill jet charters for owners. And I'm seeing the side of the business in such a different way, when you've got somebody who's running in a big race and, they're flying into Churchill, they're flying out to Santa Anita, or they're flying into Saratoga. And, to know that excitement and that thrill from the owner side, having been on the backside, it's magical. There's just nothing like it. And I can reflect on my own life and see the journey, I guess you could say, looking back on it now, and could never have predicted this is where I would be, but I feel really grateful for it.
I love that. So when someone's doing that and they're flying to what's their horse run? When they call and they talk to you, do they ask you anything about horse racing, or does that ever come up, or is it strictly charter talk?
Well, it's not just the racing side of it. Mostly definitely all about the jets, for sure. But now I have some clients that are owners and breeders, and so they like to talk horses with me for sure. I have to be honest and say it's my clients that have young children that are riding and have connections with horses that I'm most drawn to at this point, because there's just something about, when these youngsters start having time around the barn, and you see that youth in them, and you just know they're on a good path. You just know they're going to have real character in them, and be able to take some hard knocks and keep going. And I also try to keep myself from getting too caught up in the horse racing side, because it's always pulling me back. I don't know. I might wind up a hot walker in 10 years. It's just, I love it that much.
I love it.
When I retire.
Yeah. I don't see you ever retired. So have you ever chartered anything like besides people? Have you ever, maybe a horse? Have you ever done something like that?
No, but there are charter companies that fly horses. We stick to people. We've had some cats and dogs and, some pups that are real near and dear to our heart for sure. But we have not executed any horse flights, but there are a couple real good companies out there that do it, and it's very specialized, as you can imagine. And some of our clients have shipped their horses internationally and across the country, so we're familiar with it, but we do not fulfill it. We focus on people.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good thing to focus on for sure. So yeah. So what's next for you? Is it growing the brand with SPARROW? What is it?
So we're focused on that right now, managing growth, making sure that we scale correctly. We're not our model is not something you can do at mass. You really have to manage the growth, keep the relationship going. We feel somewhat of a responsibility to share our message and what we know about the industry and how important the connection is with the client and delivering a certain level of service. I think service across the board in most industries is something that we've just as humanities, we're just not appreciating as much. And so we think that's real important. And, you know, also understanding how much depth there is in the workforce. I always say it takes about 15 people to get one charter flight up in the air. It's not a turnkey fulfillment. So to do it well and to do it right, you really have to honor, you know, the person fueling the jet, the person at the reception desk, the person who's loading the luggage, the pilots in the cabin, and, you know, the person who's booking the charter and answering the phones. It's 24/7. And so we like talking about our industry. We like really advocating for it, and aviation is just extraordinary. And we're leaders nationally. I mean, United States, we're the leaders in this industry, and we're real proud of it. And so we're looking towards really focusing on, you know, becoming more of a educational resource at a bit of a larger scale. Not too much. We kind of like to keep it close to home, but that's our plan.
I love that. I love that. I didn't know it took 15 people to help actually get the plane off the ground. That's such a big number. Such a big number.
When you really think about what it is and what you're doing, it's intense. Yeah. You know, it's intense. And so you see a lot of booking apps out there that you just go online and find a jet, and it's not like that. You know, it takes a lot. And these, you know, I always say too, pilots are away from their families, away from their homes, mostly for weekends or holidays or things that are real special. I can say for me, every holiday over the last 12 years has been more about my clients than anything else. And I love that. I wouldn't change it. I've watched births and funerals and graduations and engagements and weddings. I mean, it's just so fulfilling in so many different ways. But, you know, really honoring the workforce of this industry, I think is super important. Just as important it is as honoring, you know, the clientele that we service.
I love that. I love that. So what do you see for the future? Do you see more families doing that, like we talked about earlier? Or because I see family travel, I see making the memories and trying to do that.
Well, travel's on the rise in general. So one of the things that I'm really excited about with, you know, everything that we've come out with and the international restrictions that had taken place, there's a lot to see in America. I mean, so many places to go and see and so much history. So we've had a lot of fun, you know, launching some missions across the country and in different states and areas that maybe weren't as popular over the last 10 years. So that's been real exciting. You know, the summer months we're back up and out to Europe, which is also fun, but America has been really beautiful for the last couple of years.
I love that. I'm so clever you said that. I appreciate that, because there is so much to see in America. It's kind of like, you know, you pass the tourist spots wherever you live to go somewhere else. I love that.
And you know what you'd love, Scott? I mean, these regional airports that you get to go in and out of, you know, you think about that too, when you're flying private, you know, you're going into regionally based airports that really connect you to the community. It's not like going to a large international, I mean, you go into international airports as well, but when you land somewhere and you go to a regional airport and you get a real flavor from the minute you land, you get a flavor of that culture and that community. And, you know, it's just beautiful. There's nothing better than people, right? Other than horses.
I agree with you. I love that. I love the culture of when you're traveling. You know, same with when we're going to places with horses or whatever. I want to know what it's like in that area. You know, that's part of the trip. It's part of the memory.
It really is.
Yeah. I love that. So what's your favorite regional airport?
I am a big fan of Manassas Regional Airport in Northern Virginia. It's known as HEF. I mean, they just do it right, you know, and I came up on that airfield, and it's just such a great community, and everybody has each other's backs, and, you know, their development, their oversight, the way they run that airport is just fantastic. I think it's a real role model for other regional airports that are out there. So
awesome. Well, Jacquie, thank you so much for being on the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. It's been so much fun.
It's been a blast. We got to get you on a jet, Scott.
We have to. That would be so much. We'll just take the cameras and take everybody with us.
I'm all for it. I'll come down to Texas and ride. You come up my way, and we'll hop on a jet and have some fun.
That'd be a deal. Oh, such a fun show. Thank you
so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for being on the show, and thank you for watching and listening to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show.
Have a great day, y'all.
Thank you to all the great sponsors of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. If you or your business is interested in being a sponsor of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, please call our office at 830-992-1786 or visit our website, cowboyentrepreneur.com.
Hi, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, heard on KCAA Fridays, 3 p.m. Pacific. I'd like to talk to you about something I'm very passionate about. Those that know me know I love my coffee. In the morning, afternoon, and even late in the evening, I enjoy a good cup of coffee almost any time of the day. Now, my team at the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show has been working for several months on creating and introducing our own brand of coffee. We wanted to make sure that we got it just right. We don't want to put our name on anything unless we're 100% certain that it's the best product available, and we've finally done it. We have created a wonderful line of coffees, 13 fantastic flavors offered in whole bean, ground, and K-cups, any way you like to brew your coffee. Now, each of our coffees carries our brand, the very same brand that we put on our horses, our trailers, and our chaps. So you know that this is a quality product. And we only use 100% Arabica beans, the very best beans available. Just listen to some of these wonderful blends and flavors. Jamaican Me Crazy, Honduran San Marcos, Chocolate Cherry Amaretto, Breakfast Blend, and my very favorite, Haley's Blend. A coffee so good, we named it after my daughter. You can order these coffees today by going online to javacowboy.com. That's javacowboy.com. And if you order today, you can get an extra 10% off your final purchase just by entering the promo code COWBOY on checkout. Remember, that's promo code COWBOY for an extra 10% off. Just go to javacowboy.com to order your coffee today.
Hello, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I want to tell you about a product I've tried and I love, and I feel the Cowboy Entrepreneur audience will as well. It's Rebellious Infusions. Rebellious Infusions, they're little packets of flavor. And you know, it gets hot in South Texas, over 100 degrees every day. And I like my water, but it's water. So I use these infusions, put them in my water. It makes it cold. It's great flavor, 0 sugar, 0 calories. It's pure energy infusions. Rebellious Infusions. Go to drinkrebellious.com or on all social media platforms. Drink Rebellious.
Express 106.5 FM.